I'd like to welcome everyone this evening, and we are going to talk about, for a little while, very relaxed about self-compassion techniques right now, especially in the challenging times we're having. And it's also, as I mentioned, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's birthday. The celebration of his birthday often is December 3rd, and this is our main teacher who passed away a year and a half ago, as many of you know. So I'm going to be sharing some stories I had of Rinpoche that may help inspire us. And we are apparently going to have some birthday cake as well. So we'll have a little celebration. And we're also going to be reciting at the end some of prayers for Rinpoche's swift return that are extremely important right now. And one thing I just wanted to say in honor of Rinpoche's birthday is one of the things people ask me, and some of you have never met Rinpoche, I understand, or maybe have not even heard of Rinpoche. But in order to create the cause for Rinpoche to come back in a form that we can meet, and in an appropriate form, meaning he would take rebirth, and this is something I pray for every day, in a good family, and be able to do all of his studies in the most appropriate manner. And as another very high Lama mentioned, to have sharp faculties so that he comes back with this really keen mind to maximize all the studies. And also, this was interesting what the teacher said, to fill the shoes entirely. So Rinpoche had, if you've heard, massive capacity. He had so many projects, and he was benefiting, I think some of us would agree, countless beings. He just was constantly manifesting in ways and incredibly devoted to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his other gurus. So, people would say to me, have you heard, is Rinpoche coming back? What do we? And it doesn't just happen, we have to create the cause. And so we've also been instructed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama to recite a prayer that we read. I read it in English. Some people read in Tibetan. It may be translated into other languages. This chanting the names of Manjushri, the Buddha of infinite wisdom, chanting the names of Manjushri. And that takes a little bit longer, but people can read a little bit every day if you don't have 45 minutes to. And the other part is to do these dedication prayers. So they don't take long at all. And it's prayers, they're called swift return prayers. So prayers specifically for Rinpoche to come back quickly. And those kind of things actually do, we may not understand the whole experience of it, but they create the causes, and it creates a certain situation. And for us to make that connection to that high level being again. And he was extraordinary. So I will talk a little bit at the end, and maybe Venerable Tekchok has some stories, Nico, Joya, some of the rest of you, and people online as well. So I want to talk about self-compassion techniques and the idea of self-compassion. But what I'd like to do is we just sit for a little bit, just a little bit meditative space to help us set an intention to really direct our mind in the most beneficial way. So find that comfortable meditation posture. And the main part is to have the spine as extended as possible. Okay? As if your back is straight, but whatever's comfortable for you. And you can definitely sit in a chair to meditate. And if you'd like, if you're sitting in a chair, have your feet straight down, not legs crossed, but the feet flat on the floor, trying not to lean too heavily against the back of the chair. So there's a nice open flow of energy. And just lightly close your eyes. And allow your body to find comfort in this position, keeping a normal, natural breath flowing through your system. So when we think about self-compassion, or if we think about the situation of the world right now, there are some great challenges. And those challenges have always been happening in our world system. There might be a war in one part of the world, and then a year or two later, there's war in another part of the world. Conflict here, conflict there. And as long as you have living beings that are not Buddhas yet, so that means sentient beings, beings with a consciousness that is not enlightened yet, then that means there will be mistakes made. And the mistakes can be small, and they can be extremely grave, extremely serious. And that is samsara's nature. So what's very helpful in just beginning to take care of ourselves in this space is to try as best as you can to learn techniques that help you better balance your mind. And one way that is helpful is to begin directing your awareness how you would like it to go. And what helps that is setting a positive motivation for any activity you do. So right now, we want to get together and talk about self-compassion, talk about Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And while we may be happy to be here for ourselves, and we may get some benefit for ourselves, that's wonderful. But if we can expand that idea beyond our own boundaries and think that if we are more balanced, if we are happier, calmer, more peaceful, that is a reverberation, that is a ripple that goes out into the space around you. Others feel that. So can we do this with them in mind? Can I help balance my own mind, work on some self-compassion techniques myself, so that I can move along a path that will help me fully wake up? That's what Buddha means, fully awakened being. And once I have that capacity, once I reach that place, I'm unlimited in helping all living beings find that place. I'm unlimited in helping all of them. So if you like that idea, that's a Mahayana motivation, Tibetan Buddhist motivation. Feel free to include that in your motivation and just take a moment right now to set that intention for our time together and all the activities of the rest of your day. So here's the beginning of one technique. Just getting yourself on a cushion to meditate. Beginning of your self-compassion, rebalancing methods. Establishing some sort of meditative practice. It's so important. It's so incredible, actually. And what happens is you don't need to be a great meditator. You just begin by setting a place in your home. It doesn't have to be extensive or fancy. You can sit in a chair and just stop and pause for a moment. Whether it's in the morning before you start working or before you go out to do your daily activities. You take a break during the day and a little 10-minute space opens up. And you just sit for a moment. So just focus, bring your awareness to your breath, just a normal, natural breath. And feel the air coming in your lungs, coming in through the nostrils. Feel the expansion, shifting of the abdomen, and then upon an exhalation, back out the nostrils, the contraction, and just focus on that respiration. So a useful technique, you have some stress during the day, an issue with someone you work with. Believe it or not, this space is often there for you. So an example is you have the stressor arise during your day. When you can, when it's appropriate, even if you're in an office with other people, you can always take yourself to the bathroom. You just compose yourself, 5 minutes in there. And what you can do is take yourself to some place where there's a little quiet, whether you're even sitting at a desk, quietly at a workspace. And again, the inhalation comes, the air is coming in, lungs expanding. Be there with the breath for a moment. It could be simply one inhalation, one exhalation. You pause. In a sense, you look out, meaning look out into your space. How's my mind? You're just observing gently. And maybe at that moment, I remind myself what the motivation was earlier in the day and how I never thought about the motivation again until now. And then right there, I can reset a positive intention. And it can be that in the morning, happily motivated to benefit all living beings, to become a Buddha to benefit all living beings. I lost track of that motivation during the day, having an issue with my boss. And now here I am again, setting it. I'm leaving the boss out of the equation, not interested in helping them. But in the morning, it was all living beings, all. That includes your boss. That includes your coworker. That includes a difficult taxi driver. On and on. Just allowing yourself the space, a little bit every day, to pause for a moment and be still. So please relax, and slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. Welcome. For those of you online, some of you popped in late. Please turn your cameras on. So we discussed a little earlier, thank you, that the etiquette of Gompa, you want to think that you're in a Gompa, in a meditation hall with appropriate behavior. It helps your path, it helps your practice. We don't want to get sloppy with that. So we mentioned that a little bit earlier before we really started. And because we've gone online, and I think hybrid teachings are wonderful, but we've gotten a little sloppy and a little lazy. And so people are doing other things. So it can really be helpful like that, to think that you're coming into a meditative space, you're coming into a like religious sanctuary, basically. Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about self-compassion, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And I wanted to continue on. The basic thing is to have some sort of meditation practice in your life, some sort of stoppage of the crazy activities we're doing. Pause, give yourself some space. Okay, it is an indulgence for yourself. And you don't need to know everything about meditation to start. And I mentioned this before when I taught here about a month ago, is that when I started to meditate, this is the usefulness of it. This is your self-compassion to yourself. When I started, I had done a 10-day course in Nepal. Early on, I still didn't know how to meditate. I'd gotten some instruction. So you can find instruction online, many different courses, things like that. If you'd like, you can do a course yourself. It can be a weekend course. You can come here and get instruction. Wonderful. It's a wonderful center. So, and then what I did is I was working for a magazine. So I didn't really, but there were stressors at the magazine. There were the 30-person office with some challenging personalities that I had to work with. And then you'd come back from this experience at the end of the day, and the stressors would be there, and then you don't sleep well. And then your mind is ruminating. And tomorrow I have a meeting with that person, and I don't know what to say to them, and I'm afraid they're going to do this. And we start creating stories in our mind. A lot of those stories are not true, right? They're not true, right? But we ruminate, we think, we overthink and overthink and overthink. So what I did is, knowing this habit and feeling the tension was uncomfortable. Okay? So I was in a little room. I shared this flat with 2 women. I was in a little room, and the room had a built-in loft. So the bed underneath, and I made this little sitting area above, because I was taught a little bit at the meditation course, the meditation space should be kind of higher, and you didn't want to be sleeping on top of Buddha images or something. But I didn't even have any images at first. But I would just crawl up into that space, and I had a cushion. I just sit there, and it was carpeted. Somebody had carpeted, whoever put the loft in, and so it was somewhat comfortable. You get your favorite shawl if it's winter, something you feel comfortable. Your best, try different kinds of cushions. Every body is different. So people need a high cushion, people need a low cushion, corner of a cushion, round cushion. You see here, there's different cushions. You experiment what works. Right? And you can sit in a chair. Sit in a chair. That. So So then I would sit there, okay? And I was actually going to go out to dinner with my friends after. Like I came home from work, but we're going to go meet. We're going to meet. But I'm kind of a little caught up from the day. Okay? Here's your self-compassion. I would just sit there. I didn't know really what to do, but just the sitting there, the thoughts start sifting out, lightning. Okay? So I just breathe, normal breathing, and I'd start following the breathing, and then the thoughts would go like bubbles. They just float off because I wasn't giving them much attention. If you don't stop to pause, then the thoughts are taking over my mind. It's all I'm thinking about. It's all. So stop, relax. So big part of meditation practice. I think once you get into your position, relax. We're so wound, right? I mean, it's a big city. City things, a different thing. So, so I'd have 2 minutes scanning the body. Top to bottom. You just scan, just estimate 2 minutes. We store tension here, forehead, right? We store tension in the neck and shoulders. You see, sometimes in meditation courses, I see people, you probably notice this, Venerable Tech Joke. You see people, they're meditating like this. That's not how no, relax. Shoulders aren't up by the ears. So as you scan the body, you start noticing, oh yeah, I can release my jaw's a little clench, and all the way down, out the feet and toes. Step number 1, we forget to relax. You jump into meditation, you come into a cushion. People want to meditate. They like that idea. They hear it's a good thing. They jump into the cushion, into your seat, wherever you are, right? And then the meditation's going to open up naturally. It's not realistic. So just, that it's so important to give yourself the space to meditate. And it takes time. So we were just doing a retreat at Tushita, and the meditation, and when I would start people with meditation sometimes, even the morning meditation, there's like 5 or 10 minutes till you adjust your posture, get that sorted. It's a little quicker once you're used to it. Get that, and then we would relax, 2 minutes. Then we might do some breathing practice to deepen, to kind of clear out subtle cobwebs. Then we'd set an intention. So now the mind's got a buoyant cushion. And there's some other preliminary things you can think of. Some people might want to, this is a poem I like, they read the poem. So you want to ease yourself into, but we sit down and then I should be able to meditate. My mind's like, and so give yourself that space, a little bit of time to work yourself into it. It gets faster over time because you start creating from your meditation practice, the yogini mind starts coming normally. And then you're often in that space. So then it's natural to sit down, meditate. You're already in that space. Make sense? We communicating? Okay. So that's the first thing is, can you set up? So I would sit. Wasn't any great meditator. I didn't really know what it was all about, but I'd sit and I noticed for 10 minutes, it was comfortable. It started to be comfortable. And those thoughts, I could just let them go. Yeah. But then what I wanted to do is, because I was going to have this meeting with this difficult person, I may have mentioned this a month ago, it would start surfacing again. And I had this meeting the next day. And so how did I want to deal with the meeting now? But now I'm more relaxed. And what would happen in my daily life in the office with everyone, and I'd hear people, rumors talking about him and negative things. So all I was familiar with were negative things about this person. How many times has that happened? Right? And we're over exaggerating those qualities. It's horrible. It's horrible. So I kind of watch that mind in meditation, my pause a little bit like, okay. I'm very aware of the negative things about him. That's easy. And then suddenly I had this thought, does he have any positive qualities? Hadn't considered that. So there I am in my little meditation space. This is like minute 11. I'm not kidding, like very short. And then I'd start analytically, this is analytical meditation, analyzing. He has some good qualities. And I, in my mind, start listening. He does have good qualities. Yeah. Oh, how interesting. Didn't really notice that before, but okay. So So then a little deal with myself. And then I review those good qualities one more time, another time, and maybe a third time. So tomorrow when I go into the meeting, now I feel differently about him. More spacious. I feel more relaxed and comfortable. Yeah. And then you can even check some of his negative qualities. I have the same negative qualities. He's a mirror. A lot of things are mirrored back to us, right? What a gift. He shows me my mind. Different than my friends, the people I like. They're easy, but they don't show you your mind as clearly. And they don't help you practice patience because they're easy. So it's that difficult person that pushes the button. And you need that in your life. Otherwise, you never perfect patience without that person. So all of a sudden, my mind has all these other ideas about this person, like that they're good. This is a good thing. Slowly, just little bits. And then I made a little deal with myself. So I'm going to go out with my friend soon. So tomorrow when I go in and we have the meeting, I'm going to try a little bit to focus on his good qualities and just try to see that other side of him and try to see the luster about him, the luster that is helping me deal with my mind, perfect my mind. So you see the whole trajectory. It doesn't take long, but then I just sit there with it. And then to finish my meditation, I just sit there with that, thinking about that, those thoughts, instead of negative, 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 which creates more negative habits in my mind. Slowly, like that. Then I finish. And if you want, I had a good motivation in the beginning of my meditation. So at the end, I'm going to dedicate. I'm going to seal that in, so that more merit for me, better to help me on my path to Buddhahood, so I can benefit all living beings. And I say whatever dedication I want to dedicate to peace on the planet, to my friend who's sick, to this person, like that. Then I finish, and then you go off and you do your next thing. So that's a great self-compassion technique of rebalancing the mind, of what's more accurate than just the negative ruminating habit that we do, that over-exaggerates something else, okay? Then I want to borrow from a psychologist named Kristin Neff, N-E-F-F, Kristin Neff. There's many books on self-compassion, many wonderful books on self-compassion. And I would direct you to her. I would direct you, these are people from the United States, Christopher Germer. They've written beautiful books on self-compassion. And she is, if some of you are familiar with Thupten Jinpa, Thupten Jinpa is His Holiness the Dalai Lama's interpreter when His Holiness translates in the West, which isn't very often anymore. But Thupten Jinpa is a professor at a Canadian university called McGill, and he's a brilliant scholar. He was a monk for many years, and he's a brilliant scholar, and he's a wonderful person as well. And he wrote a book some of you have read called A Fearless Heart. A Fearless Heart. I highly recommend this book. It's about building compassion in yourself. And he's got some wonderful exercises in the books. And he quotes Kristin Neff and talks about some of her self-compassion techniques. They're really nice. And so she uses some very quick little dismantling tools you can use if you're not feeling the self-compassion. And we also feel, so people say, well, I don't want to be egomaniacal. If self-compassion is all about me, and that's not the Buddhist path, I'm supposed to be thinking of others, you can't really fully consciously think of others if you're not taking care of this. So I'm going to take care of myself, but with a broader motivation. It's not just about me, but I need to take care of myself because ultimately I can benefit all beings. And I can't do it unless this is balanced. Like, it makes sense, right? So she has three of these quick steps you can do, very helpful steps, okay? And they're related to, the first one is about we deal with self-compassion with basic mindfulness and awareness. Basic mindfulness and awareness, okay? The second tool is using something called shared humanity or common humanity. And I'll explain what these mean, common humanity. And the third one is loving kindness. Loving kindness. Like, how do I deal with self-compassion with these three things? So the first one is, let's say something happens and you're really hurting. You're really suffering. You're struggling mentally or physically. It happens all the time. Happens all the time. You know, a friend just contacted me yesterday. Her father died. Okay, so, you know, he was old, he was sick, but it's very distressful to lose a parent. It doesn't matter how old they are. You know, so she's kind of suddenly going through that, and then all the things you have to go through when a loved one dies, and all this different, you know, so suddenly in that thing, and all her memories of her father, and then her family and her mother, and all the things they're going through. And some people are sick right now. Some people have serious illnesses, so they're dealing with that. Some people are just dealing with, you know, they don't like the person they're living with. They don't like their neighbor. They had a problem at work with somebody, you know, whatever these things are. Okay. So suffering's going to show up because if you're an ordinary sentient being, an ordinary living being, that's meaning not a Buddha, then you are living in an experience called samsara. Samsara, as most of us know, is a Sanskrit word that means to turn or to cycle. So what are we cycling through? What are we turning through? Suffering. Okay. And they actually kind of more define it. Birth, it's a cycle. Birth, old age, sickness, death. Birth, old age, sickness, death. That's our life. That's how it goes. You know, sometimes you don't even get to old age. Sometimes you don't even get to sickness. Boom, it's over. And back again, we circle again. That's our lives. We believe in reincarnation in Buddhism. And you come back and you meet again a contaminated way of thinking and being, and that cycle perpetuates. That's sentient beings, not Buddha nature, not Buddha beings, sentient beings, ordinary beings like us. The nature of our minds is we make mistakes, okay? So number one is suffering's going to appear. That's the first teaching the Buddha gave. There is suffering, okay? So when it rears its head, this is what mindfulness and self-awareness does with it, okay? Mindfulness and self-awareness, as far as self-compassion technique, you pause for a moment, go back to your breathing. Think about some suffering that has popped up for you today, this past week, past month, and just reflect on that suffering for a moment. And this is what mindfulness and self-awareness, how it kindly engages. A very compassionate thing you can do for yourself is simply to say, you breathe in. This is a moment of suffering. I exhale. This is a moment of suffering. Just like that. You can put it into your own words. We might have an expression in the United States. You breathe in. This sucks. You breathe out. This is lousy. It's just like that. That's samsara. That's just how it goes. Just the beginning, just looking with mindfulness and self-awareness. This is a moment of pain. I can't fix it. I might notice I want it to go away, but this is where I am. So if we're able to sit with the discomfort. Just be with it. As long as you want to be with it, it actually makes the discomfort more comfortable. So, sir, can you sit down? We're meditating now. Yeah, we're not having refreshments. Thank you. Thank you. Here's the second technique that she uses. So just relax. You can open your eyes. Second technique she uses. Now, when you have more time, you can spend 10 minutes just, this is a moment of suffering. And put it into your own words. It could be a moment, I inhale and exhale. I am really uncomfortable right now. And that's all. You don't need any more thoughts. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to drive it away. You don't need to have any elaboration. Simply, I'm going to stay here. I'm observing that I'm really uncomfortable right now. That's just mindfulness. Basic mindfulness. But it lets you pause and just be with it, because life is uncomfortable right now on the planet, and it always will be. Doesn't mean we don't have pleasure. We're going to have birthday cake a little later, and it's delicious and it's wonderful, and we had pizza today, and that's great. Celebrate that. Enjoy. But the more I understand the discomfort in samsara, I better enjoy those things when they come along. I love the flowers. I see the birds. I see the trees, the sunset, the moon rising, those things. And knowing it's all temporary and it's all finishing. And so if we don't experience, it can be very uncomfortable. I've never thought about it. And then we grasp on to the things that mask as pleasure, that look like pleasure to us. We hang on to those, right? But they're fleeting. So then I suffer again. And then I go back into the discomfort. But if I'm okay to hang out with the discomfort, it becomes less discomfort, less uncomfortable. So experiment. So you have a little bit more time, you sit there a little bit. This really sucks. I don't like this right now, but there it is, just a moment of suffering. Okay. Her second one, shared humanity. Also common humanity, called common humanity. So what happens is you start suffering, you have pain, something's going on. It can be small pain, it can be big pain. And then our ego wants us to isolate. I'm the only one experiencing this right now. Really? All sentient beings are going through samsara. We're all going through the same kind of thing. People have different responses to their pain and suffering, right? That's what makes it more comfortable, is the nature of my response. If my response is broader, more patient, more expansive, with some consciousness, with especially shared humanity, other people are going through the same thing, and many much worse than this. So if I have that idea in my mind, train myself that, something terrible's happening to you suddenly, but suddenly I realize I'm always focused on, there's so many other beings in the world really struggling. Really, really struggling. So much more than this. So much more than this. So suddenly this expands, heart-mind experience. The heart-mind experience in Tibetan Buddhism is at the heart, your core. Not the brain, isn't the mind in Tibetan Buddhism. So this opens up, then it's much more comfortable. Not the only one going through this. So have a little reflection. Slowly have some reflection on, there's other people going through this, And then my problem, okay, I can bear this. The real meaning of patience in Tibetan, Zopa, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that's our main teacher here, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, right? Great teacher for us. But the real meaning of patience, Tibetan etymology in the language of Tibet, it's bearing up under harsh circumstances. It's not just kind of waiting in the doctor's office calmly, bearing up. So adversity will come because that's suffering. That's samsara's nature. Adversity is going to come like that. Okay. And how's my mind? Can I bear it? Sure. We bear up under it, you know, and what helps is realizing I'm not the only one going through this. There's other people experiencing this like that. And suddenly I realize, okay, I'm not alone. So you might even have to use language with yourself. You sit quietly. Here comes your suffering. Here's my thing. You breathe in, you breathe out. Many other people going through the same thing, you know. And so you can even say that there's many other people going through the same thing, or I'm not alone. I'm not alone. You know? This is the shared humanity of the planet. So whatever it is, put it into your own words, realizing there's more beings going through the same thing or going through something worse. So can I bear this? Yeah. You know, and what are the options? Sometimes you have to bear it. You know, so realize, okay, there's other people going through so many worse things. I can try to help them at some point when it's better for me, when I can have the space. That's shared humanity. Second technique, shared humanity or common humanity. Then third technique, what people can do, loving kindness. We don't use that enough with ourselves. Loving kindness. We feel like we don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. You know, this is a path to benefit all living beings. Okay, to benefit all living beings. The premise of Tibetan Buddhism, to become a Buddha, to benefit all living beings. Well, that includes you. If you say all living beings, that's also you. Respect for yourself. You need to do that. Love for yourself, caring for yourself. I have my internal work, balance myself, okay? But then I'm going to do some external work. I'm going to go back and engage in the world. You see somebody on loving kindness, you might, and this is when you take your pause to meditate,